I caught Asher's eye in the mirror. He was stunned for a moment, then lowered his eyes and calmly and quickly put on his mask, saying, "You've mistaken me for someone else." I sized him up with my eyes and finally landed on the poster of mine in his hand. Is our big boss a male fan of mine? I squinted and couldn't help but smile. Asher really puts on a good show. He pretended nothing had happened and walked outside. When he passed by me, I saw that the zipper of his backpack on his back was not pulled up, wide open like a big mouth, so it was obvious for me to see the suit jacket and the expensive watch inside, as well as more posters of mine. I simply couldn't hold it in. I reached out with a smile and grabbed his arm. Feeling the person under my hand tense up instantly, he frowned, lowered his eyes and looked at me, saying, "I've told you that you've mistaken me." I quickly let go and made a surrender gesture, saying, "Your backpack zipper is not pulled up." He stiffly said thank you, zipped up the backpack and walked outside. I sighed. I really wanted to tell him that he could pretend not to be Asher himself, but there was no need to pretend not to be my fan while holding my poster. Moreover, he always wears the same outfit every time he comes to pick me up at the airport. Everyone is quite familiar with it. Okay? I simply couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing at the toilet door. People coming and going couldn't help but look at me, taking one look after another. They probably thought I looked familiar. The person who had walked several steps ahead suddenly turned around and strode back. I raised my eyebrows and looked up at him. Asher stood still in front of me and handed me an unopened mask, saying, "Put on the mask, Mateo." I was really struggling to hold back my laughter. I put on the mask to block others' gazes. I carelessly put my arm on his shoulder. He is a head taller than me. I was like hanging on him. Asher's eyebrows relaxed and he showed a bit of a smile. I got excited and said, "Not pretending anymore?" I was laughing so hard that I leaned towards him. After getting closer for a long time, I still had to look up at him and said, "You're still pretending not to know me while holding my poster in your hand. A fake fan." Sure enough, the true fans who never miss any airport pick-up couldn't stand this. He's not a fake fan. I pretended to sigh. "Then why don't you recognize me?" I couldn't help teasing him again. "Did you panic because I recognized your real identity?" Asher didn't say a word. He just glanced at me lightly. I felt a chill down my neck and instinctively stood up straight. Teasing the boss is fun, but the cowardice of a worker is engraved in the soul. I tactfully changed the topic. "Well, you used to be so enthusiastic before. You shouted louder than anyone else. Why are you so cold today when you see me?" I saw Asher's ears turn red. "I'm nervous." "Don't be nervous." I reached into his front pocket and pulled out a marker pen. I grabbed his right hand and looked up at him. "Can I sign here?" The mask covered half of Asher's face, but it couldn't hide his blushing neck. "Sure, yes." Asher's voice was a bit hoarse. When the tip of my pen was about to touch the paper, I paused for a moment, pulled up his long sleeve a bit, and signed my name a little above his wrist. Asher seemed to be in a daze. I put the marker pen back into his pocket and smiled at him. "Thank you for liking me. Will you still support me in the future? Please support me more." "Boss." His gaze shifted from his wrist to my face and then dropped again. "Yes." After parting ways with Asher, I hummed a song and twirled my keys as I walked towards the luggage carousel. The agent was waiting for the luggage. When he saw me, he grabbed me and started talking about business. "The flight was changed today, and the fans have been waiting for a long time. Stay a little longer and say a few more words later." I stopped smiling and said okay. After picking up my luggage and walking towards the exit, I could already hear the voices of the fans before I even got there. The voice of my male fan, who is even more well-known than me, was still booming. He managed to drown out the voices of many girls on his own. Mateo, maybe he was delayed in the toilet and didn't get to the front row, but Asher's tall figure was still very noticeable. Now he's not nervous anymore, and he's still holding the poster up high. Humph, two-faced. I can't help but laugh. I take back my gaze and wave to everyone. Everyone asks me about my recent situation one by one, and they all stuff small gifts and letters into my hands. I answer them, carefully collect them one by one, and then start signing for them and taking pictures with them. A phone is held in front of me. I naturally take it and prepare to take a picture. When I look up, I see Asher. I raise my eyebrows and look at him, then hold up the phone and get close to him for a selfie. "Didn't I just sign for you?" Asher and I appear in the phone camera. I stick out my tongue and raise my eyebrows, while he remains as calm as a mountain with his eyebrows and eyes unmoving. He raises his hand and makes a peace sign. I almost can't hold back my laughter and quickly press the shutter button. After taking the picture, Asher finally says, "I want both the signature and the photo." The sisters beside us burst into laughter. Usually, Teacher Breeder is always busy taking pictures of Xiaosher. Finally, he got a photo with you today. I also laugh. Teacher Breeder? Everyone starts to explain one after another. It seems that they all know Asher. It's the Weibo account of our only male fan. It's called Cub Breeder. The photos of you he took are amazing. He also often draws your cartoons, which are super cute. A big shot. Someone also whispers in addition, he must also be a handsome guy. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Asher blushing and stepping back. I can't help but laugh. The photos you took are all beautiful. Thank you all for your love and support. After saying goodbye to the fans and getting in the car, I'm still thinking, isn't he just a breeder? He pays my salary. I take out my phone and search on Weibo. There are quite a lot of fans. Scrolling down, all the content is about me without exception. I was happily admiring my handsome photos when the agent also got in the car. I still have to go to a meeting at the company. I'll drop you off at home first. I casually responded and then looked up after a few seconds. What kind of meeting? The agent lifted her chin. A mid to high level meeting. As a top-notch agent, our Sophia also has a say in such a big company. I complimented her several times, and Sophia smiled satisfactorily. Is our big boss also there? Asher? Probably not. He's so busy. Sophia wasn't sure and just made a reasonable guess. Right? Our entertainment company is just a small part of his family's business. Yet it's thriving. Knowing that Asher was probably not there. But what if? Didn't they say recently that he's going to take charge of our company? He should be there. I slumped back on the seat. I'm also going to the company. Sophia paused her hand while applying makeup. What are you going there for? To attend the meeting with my high-profile status? Isn't it okay for me to attend? Sophia mercilessly interrupted. No, I'll have nothing to do at home. Let me go to the company and wander around. I'll buy you guys coffee and run errands. I'll serve everyone. I sounded nice, but I only had one thing in mind, to go and tease our fans. Sophia looked at me suspiciously. She didn't trust me at all. You're not going to poison everyone, are you? Why are you suddenly so kind? I was too exhausted to explain and just closed my eyes and pretended to be dead. At the company, I followed Sophia until she entered the meeting room. I craned my neck to look and didn't see Asher. After getting rolled her eyes at for the nth time by Sophia, I shrugged and sat on the sofa not far away. Go to the meeting. I'll sit here and order coffee. Regardless of how many people were in the meeting, I ordered 30 cups of coffee at once, with a variety of flavors. It's just tough on the delivery guy and the secretary. The secretary only has 2 arms, so it'll take several trips to deliver the coffee to the meeting room. So I picked up some of the coffee and said, let's go. I'll help you deliver them in. Just as I picked up the coffee and straightened up, I saw Asher striding into the meeting room not far away with his long legs, familiar suit jacket and a familiar watch on his wrist. It's just that he's not wearing a mask. I squinted and looked around at the backs of the people. I gave the secretary an apologetic smile and said, sorry, miss. Wait for me for a few seconds. I took out a pen and quickly wrote my signature and blessings on a coffee cup sleeve. Then I followed the secretary into the meeting room. After all, I'm also a big star. Most of the leaders in this meeting room know me and I can talk to them on normal days. Smiling, I said that I'd ordered coffee for everyone. I walked towards the main seat with the coffee I'd just signed on, as if I'd just noticed Asher. I was surprised for a second and said, good morning, boss. Asher looked up at me and nodded slightly, saying, His voice was obviously hoarse. Did he shout too hard just now? I pressed my lips together to control the corners of my mouth. Since the boss is here, I should offer the coffee to him first. I asked him what he'd like to drink. He looked at me again and said, whatever. He almost couldn't even utter these 2 words. My fans have really worked hard. It's not too much to reward them. So I put the coffee with my signature in front of him. Asher reached out to pick up the coffee but then paused and used his left hand instead. Those words that looked like a dog's scratch appeared right in front of his eyes. I put on a perfect act. Sorry, boss. I was just writing for fun. Let me get you a new one. I was about to hand him a new cup when his thumb brushed over my name. No need. I retreated contentedly. Even though Sophia glared at me, I still smiled at her. Before leaving, I kindly closed the meeting room door for them. As soon as I went out, I couldn't help laughing. When the secretary asked me what I was laughing at, I said I met a very cute fan today. I strolled towards the elevator, humming an off-key song. Suddenly, I turned back and sat down in the sofa area. After winning 2 games and losing 2 games, which was basically a draw, the meeting room door finally opened from the inside. Asher was surrounded by people and walking in the other direction. No one noticed me, so I sauntered past the meeting room door and peeked inside. I saw that the coffee cup on the main seat was left on the table, but the cup sleeve was nowhere to be found. I couldn't help laughing. This was so cute. Mateo? I turned around and saw Sophia. Haven't you gone back yet? I walked towards the elevator with her and said, I've been waiting for you. Sis. Sophia sized me up suspiciously. Waiting for me? Or waiting for the big boss? As soon as she mentioned Asher, I couldn't help laughing. Sophia, you don't know. He's so cute. Sophia let out a scream that almost scared me to death. What are you talking about? How can you, as an employee, say such a thing? Seeing that Sophia was about to lose it, I quickly took control of the situation. Shoo. Shoo. The big boss is still in front. Sophia and I looked up at the same time and saw a group of people in the elevator. Asher was standing in the front, looking at me expressionlessly. The next second, Sophia's eyebrows relaxed and she smiled. Boss, you go first. We'll take the next one. At this time, I should have kept quiet tactfully, but looking at Asher's cold face, I just itched to go over and poke him and tease him. I pulled Sophia and quickened my steps. Wait a minute. There's room. We can squeeze in. Sophia dug her nails into my arm, but I managed not to make a sound. Asher really did raise his hand to hold the elevator door open. He lifted his eyes and frowned slightly. What are you waiting for? Now Sophia had no choice but to get on. Actually, there was still plenty of space in the elevator. After all, most office workers didn't want to be in a confined space with their boss. I was the same, but this boss was Asher, my true fan who would blush when I touched him. My thoughts drifted, but it was only for a moment. I came back to my senses and lowered my eyes. Just then, I saw Asher take his hand off the elevator button. His fingers were well defined, and the veins on the back of his hand were visible. A little higher up, most of a scribbled black signature was showing. Haven't you washed it off yet? I quietly looked up. Someone was discussing something with Asher. Maybe the content of the meeting just now. Watching Asher with one hand in his pocket, slightly lowering his eyes and listening to the person beside him, nodding from time to time, he exuded an imposing aura without saying a word. But who could have imagined that such a cold and noble person would be reluctant to wash off the words I casually signed on his hand and would hold up my poster and shout my name? Maybe my gaze was too obvious. Asher slightly raised his eyes and caught my look. I didn't dodge but smiled at him and pointed to my own wrist. Asher was stunned for a moment. His expression became even colder, but the tips of his ears turned red at a visible speed. I quickly lowered my head to hold back my laughter and twirled my fingertips. I really want to ruffle his hair. He's so cute. After getting out of the elevator, Sophia asked me how I was going back. I shrugged. By taxi, of course. Sophia was speechless. Wait a moment. I'll ask the driver to come here. Sure, no need. I'll take him back. Sophia and I both looked up and saw Asher standing in front of us. As soon as these words were spoken, there was a moment of silence all around. I was stunned for a moment, seeing me in a daze. Asher sighed and there was a bit of a smile in his eyes and brows. Let's go. Idle. Sophia looked at me and then at the big boss. Her eyes gradually widened. I couldn't help laughing. Then thank you, teacher breeder. Seeing the tips of his ears turn red, I smiled contentedly. Sis, I'm going with the boss. I waved to Sophia. Sophia half opened her mouth and stiffly said goodbye to me. Okay? The people around seemed to be just passing by, but actually their eyes were all on Asher and me. When we got in the car and Asher grasped the steering wheel, the black writing on his wrist was fully exposed. I smiled and reached out to wipe it. Asher tightened his hand on the steering wheel and then held my hand back. What are you doing? Being held in the warm palm. I was stunned for a moment. I just wanted to see if it would fade. Asher let go of my hand, started the car and smiled. It's already dry. I came to my senses and laughed. Why haven't you washed it off yet? Asher was driving the car and was silent for a few seconds. I can't bear to. I was stunned for a second, then bent my eyes and looked at him sideways. Oh, so you like me so much? Asher didn't say a word, but his ears were so obviously red. Teasing him is really so much fun. I was laughing uncontrollably. Let the idol treat you to a meal? Unexpectedly, Asher frowned and hesitated for a few seconds, then shook his head seriously and refused. No, I have something to do at home. I awkwardly rubbed my hair and said, oh, okay. Just when I was reflecting on whether I was too enthusiastic and familiar, Asher said, I have to go home to edit your videos. I was stunned for a few seconds. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Asher continued to explain. I was a bit busy some time ago, and the video of your new drama hasn't been edited yet. The red light came on. He turned his head to look at me and said, don't be angry. It's because there is a time limit for the website event. I came to my senses and smiled at him. I'm not angry. What event? Who can understand how I feel now? Listening to my own big boss with a serious face, talking about his star chasing arrangements like reporting work. It's an event with a vote for popular stars. So I have to submit the video before the deadline. I propped my chin and watched Asher's thin lips opening and closing. And I couldn't help feeling excited. Send me the edited video too. Okay. He pursed his lower lip and said yes. When we arrived at the community, I was about to get out of the car when Asher grabbed my arm. Sorry, can we have lunch together tomorrow noon? The street lights didn't shine much into the car, but I seemed to be able to see those eyes clearly even in the dimness, filled with my figure. Sure, I'll go to the company to find you. When I got home at night, I snuggled comfortably in the quilt and started to browse the Weibo of Feeder Teacher with my small account. I stayed up until after 2 o'clock in the morning and fell asleep holding my phone. I still had a big smile on my face before I fell asleep. Just thinking about Asher with a cold face typing these words, expressing his enthusiastic admiration on Weibo, makes me think he is so cute. The next day, when I woke up from a sound sleep, it was already past 10 o'clock. Fortunately, a recent movie had just wrapped up, and I was on vacation. I lay in bed in a daze for a while, then subconsciously grabbed my phone and refreshed Asher's Weibo homepage. Sure enough, a new video popped up. Before I even clicked in, my eyelashes were already curved with a smile. The title was about my previous drama. I rubbed my eyes to wake myself up from the drowsiness and clicked in. The smile on my lips gradually faded. I stared blankly at the video, along with the depressing background music. In the end, I fell in the ruins. Before closing my eyes, I reached out and grabbed at the fleeting light. When the video ended, I saw myself with my mouth half open and moist eyes on the black screen. This is so amazing. This was just a scene of me getting injured in the drama. Not only did Asher edit it into a movie-like clip, but he also made me die in the end. The editing is really good, but it really made me feel sad. But I couldn't help watching it again, and it made me sad all over again. I sighed and switched to WeChat to send him a message, only to realize later, I don't have the big boss's WeChat. Then he promised to send me a video yesterday. How's he going to send it? Telepathically? The emo feeling from being tortured by the video was swept away. I couldn't help laughing and jumped out of bed to wash up. I have to add the boss on WeChat today. When I got to the company, it wasn't lunch break yet. I first found Sophia, and she saw me. I pretended to adjust my glasses and said, I'm here to inspect everyone's work. Sophia snatched off my glasses and said, Speak properly. I scratched my face and said, Oh, I'm here to have lunch with Asher. Sophia's jaw almost dropped to the ground. She quickly supported it with one hand and pulled me to the pantry with the other, saying, I sent you a message yesterday and you didn't reply. What's going on between you and the big boss? I knew what she wanted to ask. When else should I show off if not now? I slowly withdrew my sunglasses from her hand and put them on coolly. Oh, Asher is my fan. Leaving Sophia, whose jaw seemed to be dislocated, I headed straight for Asher's office. Teacher Breeder. I pushed open the door and rushed to the desk, pressing my hands on the desktop. Asher was stunned for a second when he saw me, then his eyes and eyebrows smiled. He leaned back in his chair and looked up at me. You're here. I raised my eyebrows. You've changed. Why aren't you more enthusiastic about your idol? Asher has fair skin, so it's very obvious when he blushes. He stood up and offered his seat. Please take a seat. Idol. I couldn't help laughing. You're even giving up the boss's seat? But I didn't really sit in his seat. After sitting down opposite him, I couldn't help asking, can we add each other on WeChat? Asher was stunned for a moment and then nodded in agreement. While he was scanning the QR code, I couldn't help teasing him. Yesterday you swore you'd send me the video you edited. Where is it? How can you send it without WeChat? Asher looked up with a serious expression. I sent it to your work email. I really found the video he sent in my email that I rarely log into. I propped up my chin to half cover the corners of my mouth. When Asher saw it, he asked what I was laughing at. I quickly shook my head. Come on. If I said he was cute in front of the boss, I'd be asking for trouble. I cleared my throat and suppressed my smile, saying, I've watched the video. What's going on? Teacher Breeder? You edited me to death. Asher looked a bit at a loss. It's just the plot. I squinted and smiled. That won't do. I want a happy ending. Asher blushed so hard that the tips of his ears were red. I thought he'd say he'd change it, but unexpectedly he finally blurted out, Please stay away from your fan's life. Thank you. I was stunned for a second and then burst into an earth-shattering laugh. On the way downstairs for lunch at noon, I couldn't help laughing. I burst into laughter every time I glanced at him. The looks from the passers-by probably made them think I was crazy. Asher strode ahead, with his neck tinged pink. I quickly caught up and simply couldn't resist teasing him. Please the main character stay away from the fan's life. Asher stepped into the elevator silently and pressed the button for the first floor. I was laughing so hard that my stomach ached. I reached out to nudge his shoulder. Asher, why are you so? The moment I was enveloped in the warmth, I instinctively let out a muffled grunt and leaned backward, only to have him support my waist. I stared blankly up at him. Asher was looking down at me with red ears. Stop laughing at me. I instinctively wanted to say something, but my lips brushed against his palm. Asher looked stunned and quickly let go as if he'd been burned. Without the support behind me, I staggered forward but was quickly pulled back by Asher. Now I was really clutching his shoulder, with my chin hitting his chest. It was so hard that it hurt, and I let out a hiss. Asher hurriedly looked down at me. Sorry, did you hit your chin? I half closed my eyes. Before I could say chin, Asher frowned and started rubbing my chin with his palm. Sorry, it's all my fault. I stood there with my mouth half open, still being held in his arms. My chin gradually grew warm from the rubbing. I tensed up all over for a moment. Asher's presence suddenly became extremely prominent. The hand on my lower back behind me, the arm around me, the burning sensation on my chin, and those apologetic eyes of his. My Adam's apple involuntarily bobbed. I just felt it was too hot, probably because we were standing too close. I looked up at his furrowed brows. When he noticed my gaze, he quickly asked, "Does it hurt a lot?" I averted my gaze, suppressing the strange feeling in my heart. I pushed him with the hand on his arm. You've got a great figure. Your pectoral muscles are really firm. The two of us separated and there was an awkward silence for a while. I pressed the back of my hand against the cold elevator wall, trying to calm my restless heart. Let's go. Asher's voice interrupted my scattered thoughts. When I looked up, I could see the flushed skin on his neck. Asher asked me what I wanted to eat. I put the previous incident behind me, adjusted my sunglasses on the bridge of my nose and said, "You decide." As soon as Asher nodded, I deliberately made things difficult for him. Order something I like. I smiled at him and said, "Do you, the keeper teacher, know what I like to eat?" Asher didn't seem to be troubled. He just opened the car door and motioned for me to get in, saying, "You've already called me the keeper." I couldn't help laughing. I got in the car and finally had the barbecue I wanted. Recently, my hobby has been to tease Asher. I've been going to the company almost every day. Sophia doesn't even have the energy to make sarcastic remarks anymore. "I'm a bit of a tease, sister. Why haven't you been giving me a hard time lately? I'm afraid you'll go and complain about me to the big boss." I pointed at myself and said, "Me?" Sophia nodded and said, "Your relationship with Asher has been incredibly close lately. You go to his office every day, and you two have meals together all the time." I didn't realize it until Sophia mentioned it. Really? Not every day, right? After getting a disdainful look from her, I explained, "I haven't had any announcements recently. You know I don't have many friends. Asher is so cute. I love hanging out with him." Sophia lovingly stroked my head and said, "People who don't know you might think you haven't graduated from kindergarten. All right, there have been a lot of rumors in the company recently. You should go there less often." After stroking my hair, Sophia wiped her hand on her clothes. I was so angry that I grabbed her arm and rubbed it on my head, saying, "You dislike me. Sister, you've changed." After some playful scuffling, we stopped. Then I continued to ask, "What kind of rumors?" "About me?" Sophia hesitated for a moment, then sighed and said, "You've been getting too close to Asher lately. It's obvious what kind of rumors could spread when someone gets too close to the big boss." I don't need to ask any further, but I was still upset. Asher and I are good friends. They are tarnishing the friendship between him and me. Sophia couldn't help laughing, right? They are all bad guys. Don't be angry. Shousher baby, it's exactly what it is. Seeing my displeasure, Sophia handed me the schedule. "You're going to the neighboring city to shoot a magazine these days. I'll handle this before you come back." I looked at Sophia gratefully. "Sister, I'll double your year-end bonus." Sophia was both angry and amused. "If only you were the one paying my salary?" I squinted and smiled. "It's a wonderful wish." Then I got a slap on the back from Sophia. I was packing my luggage when a WeChat message came in. "Asher, are you having lunch at the company?" I threw the clothes in my hand aside, grabbed my phone and fell onto the sofa. "I'm not going to the company." Asher replied quickly, "Then let's go out for a meal. What would you like to eat?" I couldn't help laughing and sent a voice message. "I'm going to the neighboring city to shoot a magazine. I won't go to the company for a while." Instead of replying to the message, Asher called me. I answered slowly, "When are you leaving?" I glanced at the time. "I'll check in 4 hours later. I'll see you off." Hearing this, I suddenly thought of Asher's airport pick-ups and couldn't help laughing. What's wrong? Asher must have been working. I could faintly hear the tapping on the keyboard on the other end of the phone. "I'm wondering if you'll see me off with my poster in hand, just like when you picked me up at the airport." On the other end of the phone, Asher also let out a laugh and said unhurriedly, I can do that if you want. I quickly declined. It would be so embarrassing with just you there. Asher also laughed and said he'd come to pick me up in an hour. No need, no need. Sophia will see me off. Asher was silent for 2 seconds and said, I like you. My ears went numb. I was stunned, and I instinctively held my breath. Only then did Asher's voice rise at the end. Idle, where did you learn to speak in such a suspenseful way? But my mind seemed to be stuck in the previous second and couldn't turn. I replied slowly. Ah, Asher let out a low laugh. So give me a chance to see you off. I blushed and angrily hung up the phone. Not cute at all. Asher is not cute at all. When Asher came to pick me up, I still felt my face burning. This guy seemed completely unaware of what he had said. He took the suitcase from my hand, frowned, and looked worried. Your face is so red. Are you running a fever? Thanks. Your mouth is really a cooling artifact. At the airport, I put on a mask and sunglasses and went to check in. Work is important, but you also need to take care of your body. It's getting colder in the neighboring city recently. Wear more when you go out. Drink less coffee, especially at night. It's not good for your heart. Asher followed beside me and kept talking. I couldn't help but look at him with a smile and said, Got it, you're like my agent. He stopped at the security checkpoint and said, I'm your fan. If you don't listen to your fans, you'll suffer later. I was always amused by the words he said so seriously. His eyes curved, and he lowered his head to take something out of the inner pocket of his suit, unfolded it bit by bit, and held it in front of his chest. Well, it's my poster. I quickly pushed him and said, I was just joking this afternoon. Did he really arrange this send-off for me? But he didn't move at all. He opened his mouth as if he was about to shout, and I covered his mouth with my hand and said, Sie. Because I was covering his mouth, I was like sticking to his body. He looked down at me. His breath brushed across my palm, which made it a little itchy. I glared at him and said, Don't shout. It's okay to shout when there are many fans, but now there's only one person. Others might think he's crazy if they see this. He obediently put the poster back, grabbed my wrist with one hand, and said with a smile in his voice, I can't breathe. I hesitated and let go. He still wanted to explain. This trip is not public. Other fans can't come. I'm here to see you off on behalf of everyone. I was amused by his serious look and said, Okay, this kind of send-off is enough. Asher smiled faintly, raised his hand and stroked my head. I was stunned for a moment and heard him say, Contact me anytime. My agent will arrive tomorrow, and my assistant is already waiting for me in the neighboring city. I can just turn to them if there's anything. Thinking like this and looking into his eyes, I somehow nodded and said, Sure. I'm just afraid I'll bother the big boss. Asher blushed at the ears and said, Your messages won't be a bother. I was still in a good mood and grinning when I arrived in the neighboring city. It wasn't until I arrived at the shooting site and just entered the dressing room that I heard the male star I was collaborating with on the shoot badmouthing me. These days, you guys are taking on any kind of gigs. When I debuted, what was Mateo? His status isn't even worthy of tying my shoelaces. I raised my eyebrows under my sunglasses, turned to look at my assistant and pointed at myself. Me? Assistant? Brother, please calm down. The staff member beside us looked extremely embarrassed and quickly went in to interrupt. The other person is indeed a senior, 2 years older than me. I was too lazy to argue and just pretended I didn't hear it. Sitting in my seat waiting for the makeup artist, only the sound of him bossing around his assistant kept ringing in my ears. I said Add ice. Add ice. What's the use of just these few pieces of ice? Go buy it again. Give me your phone. No taking taxis. Go on foot. How did you even get hired? You can't think straight and can't even speak clearly. Talk. I turned my head and saw the dark circles under the other person's assistant's eyes. Ignoring my assistant pinching my hand, I raised my eyebrows at the male star. That's enough. Do you think you're an emperor? The dressing room fell silent for a moment, and the other person was also stunned. He probably didn't expect me to speak up. He jumped up suddenly and pointed at me. It's none of your business. I slowly stood up too. Half a head taller than him, can't help it. I'm kind. My assistant was holding me back while trying not to laugh. The other person angrily raised his fist, but I grabbed it. Dude, go work out. Do you want me to recommend a gym to you? I pushed his hand back, and he fell onto the chair. The people around quickly rushed over to help him. Surrounded by the crowd, he regained his voice and roared behind me. I was pulled out of the dressing room by my assistant, and my agent, who heard the commotion, also rushed over. After listening to my assistant tell the whole story, Sophia rubbed her temples. I'm afraid we won't be able to shoot today. Just as she finished speaking, the person in charge came over and said that everyone should calm down today and continue tomorrow. Sophia asked the assistant to take me back to the hotel. This matter is definitely not over. The other party will probably cause trouble again. Sophia is right. This matter is not over. Before evening, the topic of me hitting someone at the shooting scene rushed onto the hot search. The assistant was afraid that I would be sad and said, "Brother, don't be sad." Sophia said she'll handle it. I hung my head and looked at my phone. I look quite handsome in this posture. Seeing him frowning, I couldn't help laughing. "Go back to your room and rest quickly." "It's okay." The assistant walked towards the door, looking back every few steps. I switched to my small account and was about to fight 300 rounds in the comment section when the screen was occupied by Asher's name. "Mateo?" Asher's voice was gentle and steady. "Are you injured?" I was stunned for a moment before I reacted and quickly replied, "I didn't fight. I just pushed him." Asher was silent for 2 seconds. I felt inexplicably nervous and explained again. "I didn't hit him. He wanted to hit me, so I just pushed him." Asher sighed softly. "I know. I'm not blaming you. I heard from your agent that the shooting has to continue. You'll have to shoot with him again tomorrow. I'm sorry you have to go through this. I didn't think it was a big deal at first, but when he said that, I really felt a bit wronged. I held it in for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, but still couldn't help it. You don't know how excessive he is." I couldn't help telling him what happened today. As I was talking, I got so angry that I slapped my thigh. "He will definitely cause trouble again during the shooting tomorrow." Asher didn't say much. His words of comfort were simple and scarce. "Everything will be okay tomorrow. Go to sleep. Tomorrow will be better." It was simple but effective. I slept soundly all night without dreams. The next day, the assistant's eyes were bright. "Brother." Judging from his expression, I guessed what had happened. A reversal? He nodded vigorously. "Yes, indeed. Someone actually recorded the whole process. Otherwise, it would really be hard to clarify." Watching him happy, I also squinted and smiled. Since the video has been leaked, there's no need to worry about not being able to find the person. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon. Asher was right. Everything gets better after a good sleep. But when we got to the shooting site, the male star's face was as black as coal, and his expression was as if he was about to explode at any moment. I sighed inwardly. Sophia had said that I should just bear it today. When that person saw me, his half-smiling expression was quite scary. Fortunately, our dressing rooms were separate today. I went into mine to avoid his gaze. The assistant looked dejected. "I have a feeling that the shooting won't go smoothly." I closed my eyes and let the makeup artist do my makeup. "There's nothing we can do." Suddenly, it got quite lively outside. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I was about to open my eyes and ask what was going on, there was a knock on the dressing room door. The assistant, as if facing a great enemy, patted me on the shoulder. "Don't be afraid, bro. I'll go and open the door." Actually, I wasn't afraid. I followed his movement with my eyes as he opened the door and saw his blank expression. Then I shifted my gaze and saw the person who had come. I was also stunned. Asher. Asher's eyes landed on my face, and the frown on his forehead relaxed into a smile. "Yes, I'm here." He walked step by step behind me, and I was still looking up at him blankly. It wasn't until he smiled with curved eyes and hooked my chin with his fingertips that I suddenly raised my head and met his eyes in the mirror. The makeup artist was pulled out by the assistant, leaving Asher and me alone. "Why did you come?" My heart was pounding so fast. Asher lowered his head and took out a stack of papers from his suit pocket. The action was familiar, and so were the posters. Asher looked down at me in the mirror and said, "I'm here as a fan to visit the set." I opened my mouth but found it hard to say a word. He raised his hand as if he wanted to touch my head, but then gave up when he saw my newly done hairstyle. His warm palm landed on my shoulder, firm and steady. "I'll stay until the shooting is over." It wasn't until the shooting started that I understood why. Because the male star who had been glaring at me with a gloomy face just now seemed as if nothing had happened and was extremely cooperative during the shooting. I looked up at Asher, who was standing with his arms crossed beside the person in charge. My heart started to beat erratically again. The morning shooting went smoothly. We only needed to shoot one more set in the afternoon and it would be over. Asher and I had lunch at the hotel. I kept stealing glances at him. Without even looking up, he asked, "What's wrong? Do you have eyes on the top of your head?" I moved closer and sat next to him. "Isn't it inappropriate for you to do this?" Asher turned his head to look at me. "What do you mean?" "Well, coming to visit the set?" Asher buried his head in his meal again. "I don't want you to be wronged." I was stunned for a few seconds and blurted out, "Why?" Asher put down his lunchbox, turned his head and looked at me for a few seconds. Finally, he let out a soft sigh. "I like you." I already knew what the next line would be. After all, he's an idol. I couldn't help but laugh. Sure, sure. You're my true fan. Unexpectedly, Asher didn't smile. I watched his palm overlap with mine, and his well-defined fingers intertwined with mine. I stood still on the spot until he lowered his head and approached me. And the warmth landed on the tip of my ear. It's the kind of liking where I miss you. Feel sorry for you. Want to kiss you, and want to see you every day. I suddenly looked up and fell into those dark eyes. I was stunned and leaned back on the sofa, dodging backward. My heart was beating so chaotically that I even forgot to pull my hand back. Took me a long time to stammer and say, I'm straight. But Asher didn't back away. He was silent for a few seconds and then his gaze dropped. Come up with another reason. You're so useless. Mateo, wrapped in Asher's breath. I blushed. It was as if I was completely exposed in front of him and had nowhere to hide. Suddenly someone knocked on the door. I was like a drowning man who had found a lifesaver. And my eyes lit up. I'm a straight man. Asher looked at me for a few seconds, then lowered his eyes and finally let go of my hand. For a moment, I couldn't tell if I was relieved or disappointed. The warmth that left my fingertips landed on my forehead. He gently stroked my head, his fingertips running through my hair and finally resting on the back of my neck. Okay, then let's just be good friends. The door was knocked on again. I heard the assistant's voice. Brother? Have you finished eating? It's time to go. Asher got up from beside me, and I actually subconsciously reached out my hand to grab his. No one spoke in the room anymore. He cleaned up the trash on the table, picked up his coat and walked to the door. He looked back at me for a few seconds and then his gaze went down. You go out later. By the time I went out, Asher had already left. When I got to the scene, I found that he wasn't there either. My heart gradually calmed down. It seemed that I had returned to normal, but I just couldn't be happy. Asher wasn't there, and the male star didn't cause any more trouble. Instead, because my mind was in a mess and I was always in a daze, I wasted some time. After being scolded by the agent for a few words while being tapped on the head, I took a deep breath and made up my mind to find Asher when I got back. It would be good if everything went back to the way it was before. I've never felt that time was so long. During the 2-hour flight, I was filled with anticipation, nervousness, and annoyance. I only knew that I wanted to see Asher soon, thinking that I would see him among the fans picking me up at the airport later. I couldn't help but smile. Sophia beside me stared at me for a while and said, Don't do this. I'm scared. After getting off the plane, I walked briskly. There were many fans picking me up. At a glance, I didn't see that tall figure. Asher didn't come. He had never missed a single time before. I came to my senses, interacted with the fans, signed autographs, and took photos. I heard them saying why the keeper teacher didn't come today. He was always here before. After saying goodbye to the fans, when I walked out of the airport with my head down, Sophia asked me what was wrong. I stood at the exit, not knowing what was wrong with myself. My thoughts were in a mess, but the thought of seeing Asher was extremely clear. I took a deep breath and called Asher. I thought to myself, it was you who said I could come to you at any time. The phone rang for a while. When I was so disappointed and a bit aggrieved, the call was answered. Mateo. As soon as I heard his voice, my heart started to beat faster. An inexplicable emotion welled up, but I still held it back and said, Why didn't you come to pick up your idol? Did you switch your favorite? Asher denied it quickly. No. After a few seconds of silence, he said, I thought you didn't want to see me. We were both silent for 2 seconds. Then Asher asked me where I was. I replied in an eager tone. At the airport. He said, Wait for me, and then hung up the phone. I turned my head and met Sophia's and the assistant's gazes. Are you really dating? So high profile? He's here to pick you up? Then shall we leave? I grabbed one of them with each hand and said, Don't have wild thoughts. Sophia held my hand back and said, Kid, I think the bonus doubling you mentioned before suddenly has a reason. The assistant tugged at my arm and said, Brother. Sophia and I waited for a long time and said, Speak up. The assistant blushed and said, I'm just excited. I suddenly came to my senses. No. What do you all know? Before I could grab the two of them and question them, Asher showed up. He came so fast that I suspected he was actually at the airport. Sophia grabbed the assistant and ran away. I got in the car silently, turning my head to look at Asher who was driving. I had a lot to say but didn't know how to start. After I don't know how long, Asher's voice broke the silence. Do you want to go for barbecue? My chaotic thoughts suddenly stopped. Yes. My answer was so straightforward that I looked up awkwardly and saw his lowered eyelashes. Looking at the smile on his face, I couldn't help but smile too. Since I saw Asher, my heart seemed to have regained its vitality and was leaping with joy. One thought became clearer and clearer. After dinner in the evening, Asher drove me home. When I got out of the car, I closed my eyes. All the thoughts, worries and nervousness of these days were suppressed by the sound of my heartbeat. Asher, I also like you. I didn't dare to turn my head to look at him. I want to send messages to you every day and know what you're doing. Every time I see you, my heart beats very fast. I'm really extremely happy. Sorry the day before yesterday. I just fell in love for the first time. With a click, the seat belt was released. Asher's gentle kiss stopped my words. His reply spilled out between our lips. You never need to apologize. He held my hand that was placed on my leg, filling the gaps between my fingers. The neighborhood was quiet. The dim yellow light by the roadside sneaked into the car, being the only witness of this entanglement. Good night, boyfriend. When I woke up the next day, before I could wipe the sweet smile off my face after recalling what had happened, I received a call from my agent. You and Asher are on the hot search. Mateo and Asher's relationship. What was exposed were the photos of me and Asher in the car last night. All in all, it was in a complete mess. I was about to look for Asher. With a casual swipe, I came across the latest update from the breeder teacher. It was a 1-inch photo, and the person in the photo was Asher. While the fans were still confused, XX Media, which is our company's official account, liked and reposted this Weibo with the caption, "Don't worry, everyone, our boss is not bald, not ugly, not fat. He is 189 centimeters tall with 8-pack abs. He is a senior true fan of Mateo." The phone vibrated strongly in my palm. It was Asher. I took a deep breath, then another, and then a third. I simply couldn't calm down. "Hello, idol. What shall we have for lunch?" Asher's voice was filled with laughter. The heat on my face intensified, but I was reluctant to back down. "You make the arrangements, boyfriend." There was no more sound from the other end of the phone. I tilted my head to check if the call had been disconnected. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I hopped over in 2 steps to check the doorbell camera. Asher outside the door looked up at the camera and smiled with his eyes bent. The voice in the monitor coincided with the one in my ear. "Open the door. Your boyfriend is here to pick you up."